inviting you to join us on Talk What You Know, Hard Talk, the new edition, where you become the expert. The barber, the beautician, the beauty shop, those are the people we're going to talk to, the grassroots people, the people in the community who really knows what's going on. You know, the street knows what's happening before anybody else. So we encourage you to join us each and every Wednesday at 11 a.m. on Talk What You Know, Hard Talk, on NewOrleansTalkNetwork.com, where you become the expert, where we explore politics, business, ecclesiastical issues, and everything that impacts you on a daily basis. We encourage you to join us every Wednesday at 11 a.m., where we bring you exciting people from the community, talking what you know, hard talk, no holds barred, where you become the expert. Welcome to Talk What You Know, Hard Talk Edition, where here we talk it as it is. We hold nothing back. We deal with the average day-to-day person, where you are the expert. See, you don't need a talking head to tell you what's going on, and you don't need a talking head to tell you a solution. What you know is what you know. So here on Talk What You Know, Hard Talk Edition, we talk to the average everyday person because they really know how to solve the problems. We want to thank you for being with us here today. We're live in New Orleans Talk Network studios in New Orleans, Louisiana, a suburb of Jefferson Parish. And we have a special guest with us today. I call him the Dr. Lucas because I always tell him he have a PhD from the School of Hard Knocks. Probably one out of every 10,000 people graduate from that university. So he has a PhD. Thanks for being with us today, Mr. Lucas.
Thank you. Thank you again, allowing me to be here to speak what you know and what I know to be real. And like you said earlier, we're here to talk what we know, everyday people, natural, what we experience in this life, and how things affect us.
And that's the key.
That's the key factor, how you deal with things.
You know, we were here, I tell you what, man, it's just, I try to tell myself every day I'm not going to deal with some of this lunacy, this rabbit hole, this silo that the country has gone down, but it's almost impossible. And I spent 2 days looking at, and we're going to get to it, the wealth gap in America and how it happened. So you can't solve a problem until you can define the problem. That's Oftentimes right. People want you to have an answer. And so we spent a tremendous amount of time, the staff, looking this up and preparing for the show. And you try to block this silo and this rabbit hole down, but now I see why Alice kept going deeper and deeper into that rabbit hole. The story of Alice in Wonderland. Mm. And I started out Friday prepping for service and not watching a lot of TV and just studying and meditating and praying and writing and thinking. And usually I don't watch too much news. And Mondays, I sort of rest and get ready for this show. Mm-hmm. This morning I wake up, I don't know why I did this to myself. And I always caution you not to do it. Mm-hmm. I turn the TV on, and I turn it to Morning Joe for about 30 minutes. That's a show on CNBC. So I listen to them. You know, you're getting ready, I'm exercising, I'm stretching. You know, when you get over age 60, you got to stretch every morning and every night sometimes. So that's click it on Fox. And I listen to them for a few minutes. I like to have a balance because I have a lot of friends who are mega people, business people, friends and associates. But I was just like, I couldn't believe it. I mean, I was stunned. I just, where in the world, in the universe, what, Earth 2, where are we on, Earth 1 or Earth 2? I mean, I just, and before we get into the heart of the show, I promised you I was going to lead us alone, but man, some things you just got to talk about.
That's it.
We fought the American war against Britain, American Revolution. We fought in World War, before many wars, but the major ones. World War I, World War II. There was no time that you can look at in the history of America that you get all of the generals and all of the top military people from all over the world and bring them to one spot for a damn pep talk. What lunacy is that? Who does that? On what planet does that happen? It's just, I couldn't believe that. And I've seen some stupid stuff. And I've seen some ignorant stuff in my lifetime. But this is beyond comprehension. And I can't believe that people aren't asking themselves, who does this? Who puts the whole country at risk? I'm not talking about one or two. The Dwight D. Eisenhower didn't do that. Fighting World War II.
Wouldn't do it.
And I'm listening to this and I'm saying, what the hell? I don't know. I just, Mike, show this clip. Show the clip. I mean, it's just, and I promised you guys, and I promised myself that I was not going to go down this rabbit hole, but Lord have mercy, Jesus, some things you just got to deal with. Mike, show that clip about what these people are.
No.
And you know what, Mr. Lucas? They talk about DEI and all of these affirmative action programs, and everybody they got is a DEI hire.
Yeah.
This guy here that's on the secretary, well, last time I looked, it was the Secretary of Defense. Now he's the Secretary of War.
Overnight transfer.
Mike, show that clip right quick. It's just...
Very different in so many ways, John. Joint Chiefs of Staff Chairman Dan Kane started the meeting by saying it was unprecedented, the scale of senior military officers, what he called a first leaders all call. No one was sure quite what to expect in what turned into a political rally. Nearly 800 of America's top military leaders were summoned from around the globe, apolitical officers who remained silent as their commander-in-chief took the stage and offered this greeting.
You can leave the room. Of course, there goes your rank, there goes your future.
That set the tone for more awkward moments to come, including the president's suggestion that dangerous U.S. cities like those where National Guard are currently deployed should be used as training grounds for U.S. troops.
This is going to be a major part for some of the people in this room. That's a war, too. It's a war from within.
Illinois Democratic Senator Tammy Duckworth, an Iraq War veteran, said Trump's proposal is illegal
and unconstitutional. You cannot deploy our military onto the streets of our cities.
Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth opened the meeting and ripped into diversity initiatives put in place by previous administrations.
No more identity months, DEI offices, dudes in dresses. No more climate change worship. No more division, distraction, or gender delusions.
That includes, he said, a return to the highest male physical fitness standards.
I don't want my son serving alongside troops who are out of shape, or in combat unit with females who can't meet the same combat arms physical standards as men.
And he took aim at the highest-ranking officers.
It's completely unacceptable to see fat generals and admirals in the halls of the Pentagon and leading commands around the country and the world. It's a bad look.
Vermont Democrat Peter Welch said the meeting was unnecessary and a bad idea.
Mike, that's good. I can't take no more of it. I mean.
Yeah, it just seemed like.
I mean, you know, I tried. God knows I tried. This is just beyond anything that you can imagine. And I'm you know what? And I was going to call. I got some business associates and friends. We talk politics. We talk business. We talk religion. Nothing's off the table. And my first inclination was a good friend. Call him and ask him, did you see this? But I didn't. I said, let me pray on this. So the Holy Spirit said, don't call him, because you know he's not going to be able to explain it. Can you explain it? Do you understand it? Do you understand what you just saw? No time in the history of the United States have you ever seen anything done like this. And you're okay with it. 42% of the people in America is okay with what you just saw. What does that say to you, if it says anything? And like I said, listen, my mom and dad were staunch Nixon Republicans. I was a staunch Republican. I became a Democrat when Bill Clinton was in office because I was in college. I just liked Bill Clinton. You know, I like his swagger. I like the way he talked. I'm independent now. But I have never in my lifetime read or seen anything like I saw this morning. And if that 42% of the people don't think this is parallel with what happened in Nazi Germany, if you don't think it is, just keep
living.
Keep living and keep following. Yeah. And you know what's going to happen? When they came for me, there was no one to speak up. That's what's going to happen. And you have my apologies because I told you I wasn't going to deal with it. And then I see they shut the government down. Over not funding health care for 20 million Americans. So you got lunacy on one end, insanity on the other, and the American people are caught in the middle. So you wonder why the people have no faith in institutions. Because the people who are being appointed to lead and govern have forgotten the basic principle. Do what's in the best interest of the people. And at some point, the people have to wake up. As Benjamin Franklin said when a woman asked him when they walked out of the convention, what were you guys doing in there? He said, we gave you a republic if you can keep it. And the question's for you and me and all of us. Are we going to keep this republic? Are we going to keep this modified democracy? Or are we going to let idiocy, arrogance rule? Leave the room if you want to, but you're going to lose your rank and your position. Who says that to the top leaders in the military? Who says, I don't want my daughter on the side of a fat, overweight general? You might say that to your husband, baby, you got to lose 50 pounds or, or else. But who says that to a 4-star general? A Fox TV host? Matter of fact, a Saturday Fox TV host. You're not even a host during the regular days of the week. You're Saturday, and then you got the audacity to stand up and talk about no more DEI. I didn't know anything about DEI until these guys started talking about it. Didn't have a clue. Then I had to go dive in and try to figure out what's DEI. And see, on today, you're going to see some real DEI when we start talking about the wealth gap in America and how it happened. That's DEI for you. That's really it. Look, we're going to take a short break, and I went off the reservation, but look, and you have my apologies, but some of this stuff you just got to talk about because a lot of people are not paying attention to it. And if you just get a little snippet of it, it may wake you up. We'll be right back on Talk What You Know, Hard Talk Edition, when we look at the wealth gap in America and high habits.
And I go downtown. Somebody keep telling me don't hang around. It's been a long
Now New Orleans has a choice. Download the New Orleans Talk Network app for your mobile device or listen at www.neworleanstalknetwork.com.
Are you looking for a home to live stream your next event? Give us a call here at Bethesda Community Event Center, the only place on the Gulf Coast that can host and broadcast live your wedding reception, your baby shower, business seminar, and any other special event. Give us a call at 504-708-9454 for more details.
Bethesda House of Prayer. Bethesda is a church for non-traditional worshipers, a church designed for those who love God's Word. Would you like to attend a church where believers and non-believers can choose to worship together? A church where cultural differences does not get in the way of God's message. We invite you to be our special guest. Our services begin 9 a.m. on Sunday, located at 7601 West Bank Expressway, Suite B, Marrero, Louisiana. For more information, contact us at 504-348-0132.
got to pay back. Revenge.
And
A man. To be paid back. Got to get back.
Talk What You Know, Hard Talk Edition, where we hit the nuts and bolts of what's real, what's impacting you, and look, try to come up with solutions. 80% of the people can define a problem, only 20% of the people really solve problems. But before you can solve a problem, you got to understand the nature of it. You got to understand the genesis of it. You got to know how you got to where you are. And oftentimes people don't want you to know how you got in the circumstances that you are. And let me just start this off by saying that America is one of the greatest countries in the history of mankind. We have a government that has evolved over time, that has changed. We have a government that have allowed people within their capacity to grow and develop. But we also have a government that has been a hindrance at times. And so we can't forget that. And oftentimes I'll talk with people in the spheres that I travel in, and we'll have some in-depth conversation. They'll say, well, you can't hold me accountable for what my grandparents and my parents did. And I always listen to that, and I don't object to it, and then I ask them a question. Well, can I take the benefits that you have derived from what your grandparents and parents did? And that's when I get silence. Complete silence. So today we want to look at the wealth gap in America, and pretty much the wealth gap between white America and black America, and how did we get there, and how did it all happen? And first of all, it started with the promise of 40 acres and a mule that didn't happen. And we know that story, and I don't need to belabor it. And then we had a whole succession of laws and things that were written to curtail the civil rights movements that happened between 1868 and 1875, and just a whole lot of compromises that sort of set the African American community back. But the greatest setback probably occurred during what we call the New Deal. And there's an interesting book called The Color of Money that someone gave to me and I had a chance to read. And the author in that book tried to establish that the New Deal, the socialism that was designed to save capitalism, the socialism that created the American middle class, at the same time, it was creating the white middle class. It excluded the black middle class. And in order for President Roosevelt to get certain deals done through Congress, the social aspects of the New Deal, he had to make compromises with Southern Democrats in order to get them to go along with his agenda. And President Roosevelt made a conscious decision that in order to pull the United States out of the Great Depression, he would make those compromises on the heels of the black community. Pastor, where are you going with that? It's so important for us to understand and diagnose how we got here. When you look at the census, it appears to suggest that African American wealth and white wealth is disproportionate. But there are some factors that make that happen, and we can't overlook those things. And we have to do the diagnosis to be able to find a cure. The last time we talked about this black cow, we talked about we spend $2.2 trillion a year, and it comes into our community 6 hours, and then it goes out. Whereas that dollar circulates in every other community from 2 to 28 days. And there's a reason for that. And it just didn't happen today, and it all doesn't rest on you. You see, because what happens is that other groups spend comparable to what the African American community spends, but it's the cost of the goods and services that makes the difference. Give you an example. The home that I live in, and this is something that goes all the way back to the New Deal, probably appraised for about $280,000 today. And all the homes in that neighborhood are appraised about the same. If I take that same house and I move it to West End, I'll move it to somewhere in Metairie, I'll move it to somewhere close to English Turn, that house now becomes worth almost $600,000. So during the New Deal, they set up a whole series of alphabet organizations. One is called the Home Loaners Corporation. Now this is the monster. This is the devil that started it all. This is what started it all. It's called the Homeowners Loan Corporation. And what they did was that they took and they did color maps of all over the United States. And then they set up an appraisal process. And they took this data and they labeled neighborhoods. They labeled neighborhoods A through D. A was white preferable neighborhoods, and D was risky black neighborhoods. And that's still present today. And it still impacts you and it impacts me. You don't think it does, but it do. Yeah. Give you an example. When Jeff Bezos started his business, according to what I read, his parents, through their 401k and equity money from their house, loaned him the money to start. Now let's suppose my daughter wanted to start a business. The $400,000 of equity in my home is not present simply because of these maps and the way they do the appraisals. So the number one vehicle for closing the wealth gap in the United States is not based upon your credit risk, not based upon how safe your neighborhood, not based upon the structure of your neighborhood. It's based upon redlining. And it still exists today. It still exists today. This very building that we're in, maybe in 2007 or 8, we might have rolled $180,000 on this building. It's an 8,000 square foot building on a major thoroughfare. We think the building is in pretty decent condition. Regis Bank called the young lady who, and see, I want to give you real life things so you can see it. Regis Bank, about 6 months before it was time to renew that loan, kept asking for information. So the young lady that runs everything kept giving her the information. 60 days before it was time to renew the mortgage, Regis sent a certified letter out saying, we don't want to renew the mortgage. She never missed a mortgage. She paid everything on time. The insurance was done. The building was decent. And I can tell you this because CVS offered her $650,000 to buy this very building. Yes. Regis decided that they were not going to extend the loan for no good reason. Pushed her into a situation where she now has to get a loan quickly. Because what happens is that if they don't renew your mortgage, they foreclose on your property and they sell your property. So she's caught in a situation where now she has to get a loan quick. What happens?
Undervalued.
She goes to the fastest and quickest person to give her a loan without all the hassle. They send a person out, does an appraisal for $460,000. Overnight, she's lost almost $207,000 worth of equity. That's what redlining does. That's what the appraisal process does. And all this was set up during the New Deal. So the number one thing that produces wealth for you is now devalued 50%. That has a tremendous impact on everything that you do. And it's not an accident. It's real. How can CVS one day offer $650,000 for a building and an appraiser come back a month later and say, and then you know what, because when she actually said, Pastor Jones, can you look at this? So I looked at it and I called the appraiser and I said, let me ask you a question. Where are you getting your comps from? He says, well, nothing has sold on the West Bank Expressway for about 4 years. So I really don't have any comps. So I had to use comps from Gretna on properties that weren't equal in value, but that's the only way I could come up with it. You see how they destroy wealth?
Yeah.
And how the New Deal intended to help and protect end up being a hindrance to you by destroying your value. Then the Federal Housing Administration told lenders, do not loan money in black communities. That's right. That is right. In their manual, in the Senate report, when they did the investigation, said do not look what it says. It recommended the Federal Housing Administration, in its underwriting manual, warned lenders to avoid the infiltration of inhomogeneous racial groups. It recommended using restricted covenants to keep neighborhoods all white. That's an official government document. And look at the results of that. Between 1934 and 1962, the federal government pumped $120 billion into housing subsidy. Only about 2% of that money went to African Americans. $120 billion. 2% went to loans for African Americans. Now, think about that. That's when my mother and father were buying homes. That's when your mother and father was buying homes. And the system that they put in place to help stimulate investment and stimulate growth in this country and create the middle class was an affirmative action program only for whites. Yes. And most of the bills they passed during the New Deal eliminated you and eliminated me from using those government subsidies And it put an albatross around our neck that if we don't figure out how to get it off of our neck, then the wealth gap is going to continue, and every census is going to show that the gap between African American and the African American community and the Caucasian community is wider than it really is. And this thing is artificially done, and it's done today. And that's why I gave you those two ironclad examples, because banks have difficulty loaning to you because your asset that you're trying to use is devalued. Take I know Mr. Lucas well, he and I have done business together. Take Mr. Lucas's community. Some of the homes in that community probably should be selling for $600,000, $700,000 because they're revitalizing that community. But instead of selling for $600,000, $700,000, Mr. Lucas can talk about this himself, they're selling for $250,000, $300,000. Why is that? What distinguishes that community from another? Redlining. And I'll give you another client example. I was talking to, and Mr. Lucas, you can jump in anytime you're ready. Okay. I was talking to the person that represented that community, and they were asking me at that time, look, we got some lots in here. We banked all of these lots, and she knew me from my time being in government. And she said, look, we got about 50 lots that we can give to a nonprofit to develop. And can you come up with a plan? So I went and talked to the different lenders. They told me to a T, you know, your project you did over in, the project you did over in this parish and that parish, Pastor Jones, those were good projects. But we really don't want to lend that kind of money in the night water this time. Imagine that. But you won't loan money to indigenous people to develop it, but you'll loan money to outsiders to come and get it at bottom basement price and gentrify the community. But you won't loan it to developers who can go in there and raise the value of the community for the people who live there. Think about it. All of this goes back to the New Deal. So when you understand this, and you understand what is the genesis of it, now we can start figuring out how to solve the problem. You can't solve a problem till you understand what created it. See, Mike, put that thing up about, that clip about America with the, the iconic thing that showed with the American guy. Yeah, that one. Oh, yeah. Pull your stuff up by your own bootstraps. Let me ask you a question. Did the middle class pull itself up by its own bootstraps? No. When Levittown was built in New York, 82,000 loans were made to the people who moved to Levittown, to a iconic community with bowling alleys, with transportation, with good schools, with good medical facilities. 82,000 loans were made. Not one was made to an African American family. So you tell me, who pulled himself up by their bootstraps? And who used government programs as incentives to create the so-called middle class and help create this wealth gap between the African American community and the Caucasian community? That black tax is still impacting you. We're going to take a short break and we'll be right back. And we're going to look at a little bit more of this, because you have to be able to define a problem in order to be able to solve it. And the fundamental problem is that we allow people to tell us, this is the problem, but forget how you got here. So how in the hell can you solve a situation if you don't know how you got in it? We'll be right back after this short break on Talk What You Know, Holocaust Edition.
concerned. I'm not trying to run your life, but you're never too old to learn. Stop worrying about
The New Orleans Talk Network, now on your mobile device, on your computer, in your ear, and interactive. It's new, it's innovative, and it's on your mobile device. Android, iPhone, iPad, and on your computer. Take us wherever you go, because we're interactive. 504-341-TALK. That's 504-341-8255.
Here at Jones Insurance, your full-service agency, let us take care of all your insurance needs. We provide homeowners insurance, flood, rental, commercial, auto, and life insurance. Don't let the unexpected tragedy destroy your family's future. Here at Jones Insurance, 7603 West Bank Expressway, Monroe, Louisiana, 772. Contact Lois at 504-348-1492.
It's your girl Spice Divas, the marketing diva, the host of Red Lip Talk podcast. Check me out every Monday at 1 p.m. on New Orleans Talk Network. Where do I begin? We have so many amazing guests, from politicians, gospel artists, barbers, beauticians, entrepreneurs, and so much more. If you want to be a guest on our podcast, definitely tune in so you can see what we're doing every Monday at 1 p.m. on New Orleans Talk Network. Mwah!
This is Pastor Donald Jones, inviting you to join us on Talk What You Know, Hard Talk, the new edition, where you become the expert. The barber, the beautician, the beauty shop, those are the people we're going to talk to, the grassroots people, the people in the community who really knows what's going on. You know, the street knows what's happening before anybody else. So we encourage you to join us each and every Wednesday at 11 a.m. on Talk What You Know, Hard Talk, on NewOrleansTalkNetwork.com, where you become the expert, where we explore politics, business, ecclesiastical issues, and everything that impacts you on a daily basis. We encourage you to join us every Wednesday at 11 a.m., where we bring you exciting people from the community, talking what you know, hard talk, no holds barred, where you become the expert.
Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five, America's Atlanta Milk and Honey, as long as you have a kind. We were talking before we went off the air of Levittown in Long Island, New York. Fully built with FHA and VA backing, 82,000 residents, and not one was African American. And so they created this neighborhood of rising values and strong tax bases and funded for schools. So everything, when you got a strong local tax base, then you can have good schools. You can have good hospitals. You can have good roads. You can have good garbage pickup. All those things are interconnected. And so what the South did, in order to support a lot of the New Deal proposals by Roosevelt, they put in caveats that gave state and local government control over how banks were chartered, who got FDCI funding, and that they established that regional banks had to have state precedence over national or conglomerates. And so they called it out in such a way, and it's insidious, and if you don't get in the nuts and bolts of it and understand it, you're not going to understand why your home that should be valued at $500,000 is only valued at $250 million. I got an associate of mine, his mom is in her 70s. She lives in a 2,500 square foot house. If you take that same house, it appraised about $350,000, and move it anywhere else, it appraised for $700,000. So 50% of the value of that house goes away because of the New Deal legislation and rules. Now, you've had some Supreme Court decisions that tried to modify that, but the law is only good as the people who are enforcing the law.
That's it.
And so the redlining and all that stuff still impacts us tremendously. And the creation of the middle class, the white middle class in America, was the greatest affirmative action program in the history of the United States. And nobody says nothing about it. All they take this Norman Rockwell approach that, hey, middle class America boomed between 1939 and 1970. You had this tremendous influx, but they don't tell you what allowed it to happen. Take the infamous Service Readjustment Act, or as we know it as the GI Bill. Take the state of Mississippi. Of the 3,229 VA guaranteed loans, only about 20 of them went to African Americans. So African American servicemen who fought the war, who left for Mississippi, couldn't use the GI Bill. They were excluded. And it's just, and these are the things that impact us, and we don't really understand it. And there was another insidious thing that came out, Mr. Lucas. It was called the contract sale. And what they did was that with African Americans, they would go in, and they do it now, but it's cloaked. They would give you a contract sale on the house. That means that you didn't have a mortgage, you didn't have any rights on the property, and they can foreclose on you at any time. And so the way that African Americans were able to buy a home doing all of this affirmative action was the contract sale. And the contract sale had so many provisions in it that you could have been in that contract for 10 years and the person could come overnight and take the property. And those are the things that they don't tell us about. And we don't spend enough time understanding it. Now, once we understand how the New Deal is even impacting us today, because under the New Deal, under Glass-Steagall, what they did was that they allowed credit card companies and finance companies to start to make consumer loans, installment loans. And they gave them initially guarantees by the FHA. So they guaranteed those credit card companies and those installment companies the right to make those loans, but yet they prohibit them from doing them in Black communities. So the very mechanisms that allowed to create the so-called middle class in America excluded my grandparents, your grandparents, and some of our parents. And I'm quite sure, Mr. Lucas, you've seen some of this in your lifetime relative to how difficult it is to secure a loan.
Yeah, right now, yeah. Let me say this. The red line is a natural thing that's just a built-in mechanism to keep the Black community down. Other nationalities come from different parts of the world and have better opportunities in place for them. They give grants, loan money, give out handouts equally to the ones that been here that built America. And at the same time, when you look at years ago, I watched up in the Upper Garden District, most of the white communities started moving out, going different areas because the value of the land started going down. There was a big boom at a certain time for certain communities to advance. Then when they started to have to open the door for certain people at a certain time, they did so, but later those same built-in mechanisms come back to haunt you. They lend us money on the pretext if we got a certain job market. The job is in deep portion versus other nationalities. We as Black communities don't have good jobs to be able to support what the new world calls for now. And you see a return of different people coming back into the community. At one time, it wasn't heard of whites coming in the Ninth Ward, the lower Ninth Ward. But when they saw it necessary to take and incorporate a part of the Tree area with the Ninth Ward, that made the proper value go up. They loaned a little more money to the working class that wanted to work. But yet that red line still is a built-in mechanism. I'm a victim of that. I had a little house that I bought unused back in the days Mr. John was speaking about. I bought this house with a promise that I'll fix it up and make something that's going to waste be back value if you allow me to get a written contract statement. If I don't get a secure loan within 90 days, everything I invest in this house, you have it. Little did they know I was a force and determined. I wound up taking the same little one-bedroom house and turning it into the largest house on Phyllis End, the most valued house on Phyllis End. And like you stated, the value went way up in value after they started developing certain areas in the upper Ninth Ward versus the lower Ninth Ward. And that red line is still hindering a lot of people as moving forward, saying in New Orleans. We're almost not going to other places trying to re-establish, being 50, 60, 40, trying to start all over again. It's a hard task when the same mechanism all around, everywhere you go, is built in. Is genocide is taking place in America, and shame on us as a people that got rational sense to allow a maniac to be in office to doing what he's doing and nobody screaming. We as people, not Republican, not Democrat, not black and white, none of that really matter when you're talking about bringing on real change for the benefit of the community, not just individual people at large taking and running.
Well, the number one pathway to wealth in America has been the purchase of a home.
Right.
There's a disparity where only 44% of blacks own their homes and 73% of whites own their homes.
Oh.
So these institutional protocols still impacts. I'm talking about in 2024.
Right
the,
now.
the latest data is from the Brookings Institute. Says 44% of African Americans own their homes. That's compared to 73% of Caucasians, and that's a Brookings Institute study. So if the number one method to starting to accumulate wealth in the United States is the owning of your home, and only less than 50% of people in the African American community is owning their homes. As you were talking, something came back to me. I remember I was talking to someone on the talk show, and they were talking about New Orleans, and you were talking about the Ninth Ward and True May. The Pontchartrain Park was one of the few places that really developed what you call an African American community, middle class African American community in New Orleans, in the New Orleans area. And it's interesting how, and that was, I think, most of that was done under the 235 plan.
Yeah.
And so what happens is that when you have isolated segments of it, and Frazier talked about this in what he called the black bourgeoisie, a small little cliquish people gets a little entryway, and they forget about all the rest of the people. And the reason why I'm saying that is because Dr. Benjamin E. Mayer says something that I think is just so important today as we look for solutions to where we are. Because as I said in the beginning of the show, 80% of the people can define a problem, but only 20% of the people can solve the problem. And Dr. Mayer says something that has stuck with me. He says, "He who starts behind in a race must forever remain behind or run faster than the man in front." The reality of the situation is today that we have to be 2 times better than everybody else. You can't take that away because you're starting behind in the race.
That's it.
Because median white net worth in the United States is $285,000. Median Asian wealth in the United States is $536,000. Median black family wealth in the United States is $44,000. You have to run twice as fast as other people. And unfortunately, that's the reality.
That's it.
And those are things that now we understand all of the alphabet groups in the New Deal and what it did and how it has impact us. Now the question is, how do you turn this around?
How to come out of it.
I've talked to you, Mr. Lucas, about two things, a lot. I talked to you about the pool that we put together to build a strip shopping center in an area that had about 50,000 people in it. And it was a food desert and a shopping desert. And we put together a group of 10 individuals. And each one of us was supposed to come up with $50,000. If you took it out of equity of your home, your 401k, borrowed it from someone. And we put together this real estate investment trust. And everybody's supposed to come up with their $50,000. We secured the loan for $5 million. We got a preliminary approval for $5 million. And I'll never forget this. And this is how we can solve some of these problems, because it's okay to define it, but also you got to come up with solutions.
To make it work.
And every group has looked for ways to eat off of this black cow. Everybody comes and locates in our community and eat off of us. Now, what can we do? We got to start to pool our resources. We got to start to practice group economics. And we got to start investing in our own community. We have to stop being 100% consumers. The individuals who are supposed to invest in this strip shopping mall, at the last minute, came up with excuses. Well, man, I talked with my wife about it, and she said, we really shouldn't take anything out of our 401k. And our group question to this individual was, hey, man, why you didn't talk to your wife before you made this commitment?
Yes, yes.
Another person said, well, oh, man, my kid's going to college, so I might have to use the money to deal with that. Now, how can you plan and how can you run faster than other groups when everybody decides that it's more important for them to do something else? And sitting back looking for other people to come in your community and do what you should be able to do for yourself. At what point do we say to ourselves, we understand all the laws and everything that's associated with the New Deal. We understand all this. But the question is, when do we start running 1.5 times faster than every other group? Because this number is not going to change by osmosis. This number is not going to change by some government program. We have to take that $2.2 trillion and ask ourselves how to reinvest in our community. Because Dr. Benjamin May said it, and he told us. He told us this in 1967.
Give us the formula.
The formula.
Yeah.
So we've done some of the diagnosis here today, but what is the solution? How do we do? And I'm gonna just, and we're gonna, Mike, we might run over 5 minutes, but that's okay. I was so glad when you told me you wanted to come on the show.
Okay.
Because you are an example, Mr. Lucas, that epitomizes that a man can run 2.5 times as faster to catch up if they want to.
That's it. Easy.
You don't mind me sharing your story?
Oh, no.
Okay. You and I have talked about it, and we said, hey, you were in Angola for a period, but Angola wasn't in you.
No, right.
And then when you came out of there, and I want you to talk about it a little bit, you had difficulty finding a job that paid you a living wage to take care of you and your family.
That's it.
So instead of moaning and groaning and finding fault, you thought about the stuff you learned in Angola, and you started Harry Lucas Development.
That's it.
And grew it into a construction company that not only fed you and your family, but fed other people.
Many people.
And attracted people with money, because you just showed me the pictures, showed me the brochures, attracted people with money that came and said, look, he came out of Angola, but Angola's not in him. So you created an economy that produced jobs, not just for you, but for other people who could not get employed.
That's right.
So the question is, if you can do that, if you can run twice as fast as those in front of you, what can we leave the people with today? Because you have the personal experience. You took a 20-year lag by the time you were incarcerated.
Right.
You came out 20 years behind. You almost like Rip Van Winkle. You came out 20 years behind. But you didn't moan and groan. You didn't find fault.
No.
You took the pennies that you had and the money that you made, and you came up with Harry Lucas Development Corporation.
That's it.
So before we get off the air, try to explain why you did that and what has been the impact of it.
Let me say this. I bear no guilt of any of my life. All of my life add up to what I am today, and I'm proud. The best thing happened to me is going to Angola. You say, how you say something like that? Well, God have a way of bringing you through things to make you see things. And bring me there was a way to bring me aware of myself and what I want to do with my life in spite of. I was victimized, and yet I didn't let my being victimized be my direction in life. I took it on my own to say, I got to make some sense out of this nonsense that I've been exposed to. And here it is. Today, I recognize things for what it is, not what I want it to be. I learned how not to be selfish, got to be Harry way, but be our way. And when I included others into my endeavors, God made things go easy, and that collective effort brought things in my mind, and today I'm still at 76 years old, running that same race, and gonna run till God take me away.
But you've helped redevelop and reconstruct houses in the Garden District. I mean, I worked on one of them with you, and it's just amazing. And I want to end on this, Mr. Lucas, because what happens is that the solution to it is we have to buy into the concept.
That's it.
That we have to run 1.5 times faster than everybody else.
That's it.
Because these institutional barriers are there, and nobody's going to take them down.
Yeah,
so what we have to do is decide that this $2.2 trillion that we spend each year, that we're going to reinvest in our community. We're going to do like Mr. Lucas did. We're going to develop Harry Development Corporations all in our community. We're going to open up stores. If there's a food desert in your community, pull together your resources like the Vietnamese did in New Orleans East, and form your own co-ops. Create your own store. Quit looking for someone to come and cure your food desert. No, it's up to you
to do it.
To take your pennies and your nickels and open up a grocery store in your community, open up a co-op, open up a laundromat, open up business in your communities, and stop looking for other people to do what you're going to have to do for yourself.
Ultimately, if you don't do it for yourself, you'll never happen.
And you had another little guy who came out of Angola. He couldn't get a job, and he started a T-shirt company.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you introduced me to him.
Yeah.
I mean, you've introduced me to at least 8 or 9 people
that
who the system should have crushed.
Yeah.
But they didn't allow the New Deal policies. They did not allow incorporations. They said to themselves, I'm going to figure out how to use this system to empower me and empower my community.
That's it.
And you spend $2.2 billion a year. Everybody comes into our communities and become multi-millionaires. Look at the Brothers stores. Where were they located at? In your community. What did they become famous for? Selling fried chicken. Garlic fried chicken that my mom was doing 30 years ago. So the question for you and me is, we know what happened. What are we going to do to turn it around?
That's it.
And the key to it is not letting the dollar come in your community for 6 hours. Not 6 hours.
And
when in other communities, it stays in there an average of 6 to 28 days.
Multiply.
That should tell you something.
That's it.
And so what we have to do is do what Dr. Mays said. We have to run twice as fast and just accept it. And my coach, Stanley Schofield, used to tell us, Donald, we have to be 2.5 times better than everybody else just to get on the field. That's why I have y'all running 5 miles. That's why I have y'all running 20 times up the levee before we begin to even practice. Because when you walk on the court or you walk on the field, I want you to be in such shape, I want you to be so prepared that they're gonna wonder what happened. And you know what happens now? People come to Mr. Lucas for Harry Lucas Development to do work on their $1 million house.
Yeah.
That's the key. I want to thank you for being with us on Talk What You Know, the Hard Talk edition, where we bring you the truth according to the man on the street, because the man on the street has the answer. Stop listening to the talking heads. If this podcast has been interesting to you, we encourage you to comment, share, and subscribe. Look forward to being with you next time on Talk What You Know, Hard Talk edition. We continue to deal with this $2.2 trillion black cow that everybody in America feeds off.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Won't you help to sing these songs of freedom? 'Cause all I ever have, redemption songs.
How y'all doing? It's your girl Spice Divas, the marketing diva, and we have New Orleans Talk Network proudly presents the Red Lip Talk Literacy Expo. It's building community engagement through literacy and author exposure. This event gives local authors the platform that they deserve to shine. Join us at Bethesda Community Event Center, the hub of cultural and literacy growth. We want you to save those dates. There's 3 dates, so we want you to mark your calendars. September the 28th at 4 p.m., October the 26th at 2 p.m., and December the 14th at 2 p.m. We don't want y'all to miss it. Don't miss inspiring stories, networking, community fun, and vendors. You guys are welcome. Come celebrate with us, literacy, culture, connection with us at New Orleans Talk Network proudly presents the Red Lip Talk Literacy Expo. Mwah.
Listen up. Your customers, our listeners, could be hearing about your business right now. Yeah, right now. Don't miss out on the opportunity to advertise with New